The Bondage of the Will by Martin Luther. Argument 12. Salvation for a sinful world is by the grace of Christ through faith alone. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word was made flesh, and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bare witness of him, and cried, saying, This was he of whom I spake. He that cometh after me is preferred before me, for he was before me. And of his fullness have all we received, and grace for grace. John chapter 1, verse 10 through 16. Let us now turn to John, who also writes eloquently against free will. In John chapter 1, verse 5, he says, And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. And in John chapter 1, verse 10 and 11, He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. By world, John means the entire human race. Since free will would be a most excellent thing in man, it must be included in whatever John says about the world. Therefore, according to these two texts, free will does not know the light of truth, and it hates Christ and his people. Many other passages, such as John chapter 7, verse 7, chapter 8, verse 23, chapter 14, verse 7, chapter 15, verse 19, 1 John chapter 2, verse 16, chapter 5, verse 19, proclaim that the world, and that especially includes free will, is under Satan's command. The world includes all that is not separated to God by the Spirit. Now, if there had been anybody in the world who had by free will known the truth, and by free will did not hate Christ, John would have altered what he wrote, but he did not do so. It is clear, therefore, that free will is as guilty as the world. In John chapter 1, verse 12 and 13, John goes on, But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. Not of blood means it is useless to rely on your place of birth or on your family, nor of the will of the flesh means it is foolish to rely on the works of the law. Nor of the will of man means that no effort by man can begin to make him acceptable to God. If free will is useful at all, John ought to not reject the will of the flesh, or else he's in danger of Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. Woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil. There can be no doubt that natural birth is of no use to gain salvation, because in Romans chapter 9, verse 8, Paul writes, They which are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of God, but the children of the promise. Then John also says in John chapter 1, verse 16, And of his fullness have all we received, and grace for grace, i.e., one blessing after another. So we receive spiritual blessings only through the grace of another, and not by our own efforts. Two opposite things cannot both be true, that grace is so cheap, anyone anywhere can earn it, and at the same time, grace is so dear that we can only receive it through the merit of one man, Jesus Christ. I wish my opponents would realize that when they argue for free will, they are denying Christ. If we can obtain grace by free will, we do not need Christ. And if we have Christ, we do not need free will. Supporters of free will prove their denial of Christ by their action, because some of them even resort to the intercession of Mary and the saints, and fail to rely on Christ as the only mediator between man and God. They all abandon Christ in his work as mediator and the kindest Savior, and regard the merits of Christ as of less value than their own efforts.